Ladies and gentlemen, Sabo is dead. Dead serious about going to the Reverie, that is. And whilst Eiichiro Oda would have you believe that this may have been quite a fatal encounter, whether this is the case or not, things are looking pretty dire for Mr. Pipe McCatterson, and I have a strange feeling that it's about to happen again. Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and I own very few pairs of shoes, like we're talking 2 or 3. And 2 or 3 very much describes the amount of key brothers in One Piece. It was 2, but then became 3 when Sabo rocked up and said, "Hey guys, remember me?" Or I guess more accurately, it would have been, "Hey guys, I remember you." But Sabo has always been a fairly intriguing character to me, because while I do have a lot of personal criticism regarding how he was reintroduced into the story, what generally interests me more is that Oda went to such great lengths to include him at all. So we're going to ask why that was, and then we're going to answer that question, because Oda has big plans for Sabo, although they may prove to be rather fatal. And it's all going to begin with a quick round of, "Hey, that's my cravat, get your own, because that one's mine." A very simple minigame, the rules of which are as follows. Sabo's cravat has been stolen by a very sneaky member of the Revolutionary Army, and it's going to be your job to guess who it was. Should you guess incorrectly, then your punishment will be to subscribe to the Grand Line Review, which will result in consistent injections of One Piece culture administered directly into your YouTube feed. And if you are correct, then Sabo will use his flame-based powers to heat your kettle. But who will it be? 1, 2, or 3? Make your choice now, and we shall reveal the answer in 3, 2, 1, and bam, it was Hack, who stole the cravat in order to pretend that he was relevant in the series, which he is not. But if you chose incorrectly, then you know the thing to do, and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome. Now on to Sabo, and I think it's fairly safe to say that his fate is in a rather precarious position at the moment. The last we saw of Sabo was, of course, during the Reverie, which, just as a side note, feels like an absolute eternity ago, and for good reason, because the Reverie arc ended in June 2018. I'll say that again, June 2018. Wano has been going on for almost 3.5 years, which is just wow. But Sabo's mission at the Reverie was twofold. At first, we were told during a meeting on Momoira Island that the purpose of the Revolutionary Army having a presence at the Reverie was to, quote, declare war against the Celestial Dragons. But that wasn't quite it, because after arriving at Marijois via various methods, be they crows, ground manipulation, or even cosplay, a much more clear section of task was defined, which was to free one Bartholomew Kuma. But that was only a small part of something bigger, because if they simply wanted to rescue Kuma, then they could have done so, stealthily and probably easily, and in fact, better yet, they could have done it either before or after the Reverie. You know, when all the Marines and stuff weren't there, but you know, that sort of mission would be far from a declaration of war. With that said, I have no idea how they planned on doing anything substantial. I mean, the meeting with Dragon must have gone something like, "Alright lads, this Reverie business is the most important event of the global calendar. The entirety of the world's Marines, as well as Cypher Pulsels, will be focused on this one location at this one time. So that time and that place is absolutely perfect for a very sneaky operation. And if we're going to succeed, we're going to need the cat, the crow, the fabulous giant, and you're all going to be led by a 22-year-old boy who can now apparently turn into fire, which is pretty cool if I do say so myself. Essentially, I can't help but feel like Dragon heavily underestimated the difficulty of this mission. The way I picture it is the equivalent of Luffy trying to sneak into Marineford and free Ace without anyone noticing, but then also as part of that plan, pulling down his pants, bending over and yelling at the top of his lungs, "Hey Marines, F all of you and your mothers." It would just be the wrong thing in the wrong time at the wrong place. And that's how I feel about the whole Reverie mission, so no wonder it ended rather dubiously. And the first character to drop a hint regarding Sabo's fate was the blackest of beards, Blackbeard. He informed us that the captains of the Revolutionary Army busted into sacred Marijois to rescue Kuma, and they clashed with the Navy Admirals Ryokugyu and Fujitora in the process, which I will say is a frustratingly vague telling of events. However, this dire situation becomes much more clear during the Wano Act 2 interval when we catch up with Big News Morgans, who says there's been a fatality. Big Obits sell papers. Obits, I want to point out, is short for obituaries, and Morgan says that because he's a charlatan. That's a fact. And an attempted murder? Thrilling stuff. So we have a death and an attempted murder. The latter of which is what we would call Karasu when he fails to transform. But it's heavily implied that one of these relates to Sabo and his posse, whilst the other relates to the kingdom of Alabasta. And I have to say, if I was to place a bet right here and now, then the evidence does point towards Sabo being the one who was reported dead. The last words we hear from Sabo's mouth hole are pretty foreboding. No, we're not getting caught. We either succeed or we die. And we know that they probably didn't succeed, so And whilst everything really is still up in the air, it's the reactions that tell the bulk of the story here. We see the revolutionaries on Momoira Island staring at this news with sheer disbelief. In fact, we take a look at Koala and her eyes are leaking fluid, which I am told is something that people do when they are sad. The revolutionary reactions can really go either way though. Another leading idea is that Sabo was captured and is being framed for the attempted murder of probably Cobra or Vivi, and that would fit quite nicely with the revolutionary response, because that would also elicit a state of shock, maybe even tears, but maybe not. But it is a lot harder to make that argument for all of the other characters. Makino for one saw whatever this news of Sabo was and closed her bar for the day, choosing to sob instead in quiet despair. However, the most telling reaction comes from Dadan and the bandits who state, "We only just found out he was alive. Sabo, say it ain't so." Which, at the time, was the thing that convinced me most of all that Sabo was the one reported dead. It's just such an odd thing to say if it was referring to him being captured or even attempting to murder someone else. However, it's not quite enough for me to set a conclusion in stone. For one thing, Oda could very purposely be trying to imply that Sabo is dead in order to spring some sort of double whammy shocking reveal onto us. And the other is that even though yes, he was reported as being dead, this could be inaccurate information. I should also say that this is a very rare situation where the anime might actually offer some insight that the manga does not. In the anime adaptation of this news, we have a scene on Alabasta where the citizens were literally crying in the streets over whatever the news is. And since they probably, let's be real, don't care in any way about Sabo, the only real solution to this reaction that makes sense in my mind would be either the death of Vivi or Cobra. And this is actually huge because without this scene, I am almost 100% convinced that this death was Sabo. And the anime is in a position where extras like this should be taken seriously because it has been proven time and time again during the Wano era that the production staff do have knowledge of future story elements. But at best, that leaves us with a bit of a stalemate. Currently, it could go either way. So right now we have a bit of a case of Schrodinger's Sabo on our hands. He has been confined within this strangely reverie-shaped box, in which he is both simultaneously alive and dead as we have yet to observe him. Also, for the sake of this metaphor, Sabo is going to be a cat. Meow, says Sabo. Or does he? Because he might be dead, so he's not going to say anything, actually. Strike that meow. But it's at this point that I ask myself, well, what would Sabo's death even accomplish? It would seem like a real Part 3 JoJo sort of maneuver to, narratively resurrect a character, only to go and have them die again off screen. And I really don't think that Oda would have gone to all this trouble to get Sabo back into the story just to snuff out another flame. I mean, I guess it would make Luffy upset, perhaps even very upset, and it may give him a reason to start a future conflict against the world government as a mission of justice for his two fire-based brothers. But the thing is that motivation still exists and is arguably even stronger if Sabo was still alive, because there are only really two other outcomes here. Either Sabo was captured or he escaped. And the second of those two things that I just said seems incredibly unlikely, although it would be quite ironic given Sabo's final words of, "No, we're not getting caught. We either succeed or we die." And then it turns out that he did neither of those things. But Sabo being captured would give Luffy a personal stake to take a fight directly to the world government, in the very same way that Ace's situation actively made Luffy temporarily put his own dreams on hold just for that little bit of a rescue mission there that went very badly. But as a result, we do know exactly how Luffy would react if Sabo was captured. He would go again, and he would promptly stroll into New Marineford, which still looks like a McDonald's, or even Marijois, and it would all just fit very nicely into place because Sabo cops a lot of flack, much of it admittedly from me, for being too similar to Ace, which whether you like it or not, that is an intentional parallel. So if we are going to mirror Ace, then let us continue the spectrum of reflection and play the story out to Ace's conclusion, which was being executed. And it's very easy to construct a situation where Sabo is in a similar public spot. The world government frames him as the man man who killed either Vivi or Cobra, bad man, and then schedule a public execution to make a statement to the world. A statement that would sound something like, "Justice, justice, rah, rah, rah." And at this point, what would the Marines really have to fear? After Wano, 2 emperors will be quashed, the warlords of the sea are presumably being taken care of, sort of, as we speak. Shanks, well, he never does anything. Blackbeard is, well, he's a naughty boy. But the world government also have a fun new SSG, which apparently stands for Special Science Group. And whatever that is, it's the reason why they can do things. The only thing that they would really have to fear is the Revolutionary Army attacking, but at the same time, that would be kind of exactly what they want. To flush out all of the revolutionary rats into one extermination spot and consolidate their global power for the next few centuries. So I can picture Sakazuki standing atop an execution platform and saying, "Mwahaha, who's going to stop me from killing this dude? No one. That's who I am, a bad man." And at that moment, in a way that I would describe as very Whitebeard-esque, the Thousand Sunny appears, captained by one Monkey D. Luffy, but he's not alone. Backing him up are the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, the Revolutionary Army, and however many other gazillions of allies decide to lend their assistance to Luffy, just like how he lent his help to them when their kingdoms were in need. So we play out Marineford again, except this time it ends better. Less donuts and more kicking Sakazuki in the nuts. Do you know how many words rhyme with donuts? Because it's surprisingly few that don't also contain the word nuts. Earlier on in the script, I was also looking for words that rhyme with Sabo. I was going to write something like Sabo's bravado, but then I realized that Sabo also rhymes with avocado. And then all I could think of was a sabocado, so I didn't write it. But the basic idea is that we replay the Paramount War, except instead of Whitebeard, we have Luffy. Instead of Ace, we have Sabo, and instead of Akainu, we have Sakazuki, who is the same person, but with a different name. And of course, this is all wild speculation from a very questionable Australian, but I'd like to believe that Sabo is being set up as a core element of the second half of One Piece, in the same way that Ace was a core element of the first half. But to find 2 halves of a complete video, then here is the place to click. This bad boy is packed full of fictional pirate-based content because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.